The person next to you at work just got promoted for doing exactly what you refused to do. They're thriving. You're wondering if your integrity even matters anymore. That quiet ache, watching compromise pay off while your faithfulness seems invisible, is one of the oldest struggles in Scripture. And the man who lived it most intensely left behind a blueprint you've probably been reading wrong. Daniel arrived in Babylon as a teenager, ripped from everything familiar. Jerusalem had fallen. The temple, the physical center of his faith, lay in ruins behind him. And the empire that destroyed it had a specific plan for him. Make him useful, make him loyal, make him forget. They changed his name. They assigned him a new diet. They enrolled him in a curriculum designed to replace every value he'd carried from home. Babylon wasn't trying to punish Daniel. Babylon was trying to absorb him. This is the detail most people skip past. Daniel wasn't thrown into a dungeon on day one. He was given opportunity, privilege, access to the king's own food and wine. The pressure he faced wasn't persecution. It was invitation. Come in, eat well, rise through the ranks. All it costs is a slow, quiet compromise that nobody back home will ever know about. Sound familiar? The most dangerous threats to your faith rarely announce themselves. They arrive disguised as career advancement, social acceptance, the path of least resistance. You don't wake up one morning and decide to abandon God. You just stop praying before meals because it's awkward at the office lunch. You laugh at the joke you know dishonors him. You stay silent when you could speak. The drift is so gentle you barely feel the current. Daniel felt it every single day. And here's what made his response remarkable. He didn't grandstand. Daniel chapter 1 verse 8 says he purposed in his heart that he would not defile himself with the king's food. That phrase deserves your attention. Purposed in his heart. The decision happened internally, quietly, before any external confrontation. Daniel settled the matter with God before he ever had to settle it with Babylon. Most of us try to fight compromise in the moment it arrives. We rely on willpower when the pressure hits. Daniel made his choice upstream of the pressure. He decided who he was before he was tested on it. And that sequence changes everything about how faithfulness actually works. But here's where Daniel's story gets uncomfortable for modern readers. His faithfulness didn't produce immediate vindication. Yes, God blessed the vegetable test in chapter 1. But then, years passed. Daniel served a pagan king. He worked inside a system built on conquest and idol worship. He excelled at his job, which meant helping an empire that stood against everything his God represented. He didn't get to quit and start a ministry. He bloomed where Babylon planted him, and that tension never fully resolved. This is the part of faithfulness nobody puts on an inspirational poster. You can honor God and still spend Monday through Friday inside a system that doesn't honor him. You can refuse to compromise and still have to collaborate with people who did. Daniel sat in strategy meetings with the same officials who bowed to golden statues. He didn't get a clean, separated, holy bubble to operate from. His faithfulness played out in the mess. If you're waiting for God to extract you from an uncomfortable environment before you can truly serve him, Daniel's life is a direct challenge to that expectation. God left him in Babylon for decades, on purpose. So what sustained him through those years? How do you stay sharp when the culture around you is filing down every edge? Daniel chapter 6 gives us a window into his private life that answers this question with startling simplicity. When the decree came down forbidding prayer to anyone except the king, verse 10 says Daniel went home, opened his windows toward Jerusalem, and prayed 3 times a day, as was his custom since early days. As was his custom since early days. This wasn't crisis mode faith. Daniel didn't suddenly start praying harder when persecution arrived. He'd been doing this every single day, year after year, in the quiet seasons when nobody was watching and nothing was at stake. The discipline preceded the crisis by decades. 3 times a day he opened his windows toward a city that lay in ruins, toward a temple that no longer stood. He oriented his entire prayer life around a promise that hadn't been fulfilled yet, that God would restore what Babylon had taken. Every prayer was an act of defiant hope aimed at rubble. That's the kind of faith that sustains you when everyone around you is compromising and thriving. Visible, daily, structured communion with God that you maintain whether you feel like it or not, whether it's producing results or not, whether anyone notices or not. And people did notice. Daniel, Chapter 6 verse 3 says Daniel distinguished himself above the governors and satraps because an excellent spirit was in him. His colleagues could see something different operating in this man. They couldn't name it, but they could feel it, and it threatened them enough to conspire against him. Pay attention to the shape of this conspiracy. His enemies searched for grounds to accuse him regarding his government work and found nothing. Verse 4. They could find no charge or fault because he was faithful, nor was there any error or fault found in him. So they had to manufacture a law specifically designed to make his faithfulness illegal. They couldn't catch Daniel compromising, so they made integrity itself the crime. You might be in a season where your faithfulness feels like a target on your back, where doing the right thing has made you inconvenient to the people around you. Daniel's story confirms your suspicion. Yes, integrity can make you a threat to people who've built their success on its absence. That's a feature of faithfulness, not a malfunction. The lion's den was the most dramatic moment of Daniel's life, but it lasted one night. The decades of daily prayer, quiet obedience, and professional excellence in a pagan empire. That was the actual test. The daily discipline was the preparation. God shut the mouths of the lions. He vindicated Daniel publicly. But notice what happened afterward. Daniel didn't leave Babylon. He went right back to serving in the same government, under a new king. The faithfulness cycle continued. Morning prayer, window open toward Jerusalem. Do excellent work, refuse to bow. Repeat. There's a critical tension in Daniel's story that most teaching smooths over. The other Jewish exiles in Babylon weren't all villains. Many of them probably compromised on the dietary laws, attended the state religious ceremonies, and gradually blended into Babylonian culture. And from the outside, they looked fine. Comfortable even. Some probably rose to prominence faster than Daniel because they carried less friction into every interaction. They were easier to work with, easier to promote, easier to invite to dinner. Daniel watched this. For years, he watched compromise work, at least by every visible metric. The colleagues who bent their convictions got the same salaries, slept in the same comfortable beds, ate better food, and God didn't strike them down. Lightning didn't fall. They just drifted, quietly, comfortably. Until the identity they'd carried from Jerusalem existed only as a faint memory, a cultural footnote rather than a living faith. That slow disappearance is the real danger. The compromises in Babylon didn't lose their faith in a dramatic moment of apostasy. They lost it like a coastline loses land to the sea, inch by inch, so slowly that no single day felt like a turning point. Your version of this might be the coworker who used to go to church but now only mentions God when something goes wrong. The friend who still calls herself a Christian but hasn't opened scripture in months. They seem fine, happy even. And part of you, the honest part, wonders if they found an easier path to the same destination. They haven't. Daniel chapter 12 verse 3 delivers the long view. Those who are wise shall shine like the brightness of the firmament, and those who turn many to righteousness like the stars forever and ever. The word wise there, in Hebrew, carries the sense of those who have insight, who see the deeper reality beneath the visible surface. Daniel's reward wasn't measured in Babylonian currency, it was measured in eternity. The hardest part of faithfulness is the middle. The beginning has adrenaline. You've made your stand, you feel the conviction burning. The end has vindication. God shows up, the lions' mouths close. The king issues a decree. But the middle is Tuesday. The middle is another prayer session with the windows open and nothing visibly changing. The middle is watching the compromisers laugh on their way to another promotion while you eat vegetables alone. Daniel's life teaches you to trust the middle, to keep the windows open when there's nothing on the horizon but dust, to do excellent work inside a broken system because your excellence honors God, regardless of whether it advances your career. To hold your identity so firmly that an empire's best efforts to rename you, re-educate you, and reshape you simply bounce off the bedrock of who you know you are in God. Purposing something in your heart means the decision is already made before the test arrives, so make it now. Decide today, before the next compromise presents itself, wearing the disguise of opportunity, who you serve and how you'll live. Open your windows toward the promise God has given you, even if that promise still looks like rubble from where you're standing. Pray into it, daily, whether you feel it working or not. Babylon had every advantage: resources, power, cultural gravity. the slow, seductive pull of comfort. Daniel had one thing: an open window and a God who remembered his name. 70 years later, Babylon was dust. Daniel's name is still spoken in the mouths of the faithful. Your window is still open. Pray through it.